Hello, Internet! It's time for another Wednesday serial. I want to do something a little different this time. Before I get to the book, I want to put you in a little bit of a mindset of something that I've been dealing with recently so you can kind of get a feel of where I'm reading this book from. Recently, I saw a YouTube video by the Feminist Frequency channel in which this lady puts out stuff talking about how different things are viewed through a feminist lens, and her most recent video she chose to look at comics, and she was talking about the women in refrigerator syndrome, something brought up by Gail Simone so many years ago, talking about how a lot of girlfriends or wives or female figures are axed off so that it basically gives the male hero something to go off of and kind of advance their story, and that means that the woman serves nothing more than that, which, yeah, there's definitely a point to it, and I think we've seen that stemmed off. Not completely, and there's a point to bringing it up, and I get that. However, I did contact the woman who makes these videos to say, that was a good point, and I understand your feminist view on this, and I get that. However, there are a lot of great comics that have a very positive feminist view, or even do a lot of things to even take things that aren't quite so feminist that are comic standards and then spin it to make it a strong feminist reading. Gail Simone herself has done a lot of this, especially with her early Birds of Prey work, and I mean there's stuff like Strangers in Paradise, or there's just so many examples, and the fact that she didn't mention or talk about any of this sucked, because here she is, and she has a certain wide audience who obviously isn't necessarily the comic reading type, and she just turned off I don't know how many people to the entire medium by just bashing it without ever counterbalancing it with the other point, which is a journalistic faux pas if there ever was one. And so that was just catching my ire, because I wrote her to say all this, and she came back to me to say, basically, I don't want to give it all because I don't want to raise any feathers, but basically she said to me that she hasn't read a comic that meets any of her feminist standards, which is just fucking bullshit, or she's really bad about selecting comics that she thinks she'd like. Probably both. But this did get me thinking. Comics are known for just having, titillizing women, and that's part of the point, but at the same token, the men are usually all ripped and whatever. Body types isn't exactly the best thing represented in superhero comics, or even just in comics in general. And it's something that had been kind of floating through my mind, even while going through all the Comic Fest stuff that I did recently. And I went to the comic shop today, and I happened to see this on the shelves. Suicide Girls. If you're unfamiliar, Suicide Girls is a website that has chicks with, tats and, weird piercings, that sort of deal, and kind of focuses on nudity, and it's an interesting site. I don't want to say it's a feminist site by any means, but it does also have some articles on there and stuff that can give you an interesting reading if you're looking at it from a feminist angle, especially. And I don't go there too often, so I don't know a lot about it, but a lot of my friends do, though they don't really read so much, but that's kind of the point, isn't it? And it's kind of unfortunate, because, if you look at some stuff, there's great feminist readings, there's all that too, but at the same time, when you see a comic spread like this, how am I supposed to focus on this page here? Really? I'm not saying that, tits are everything, it's great, but, at the same point, how far can you go without trying to be repressed either? Boobs are awesome. Pretty much everyone I know loves boobs. It's kind of a unifier. If we're having trouble not getting along, it's a subject I bring up to, unify the group once more. Everyone loves tits, and there's nothing wrong with that. At all. Sexuality is an important part of the experience, and whenever you're dealing with sexuality, you have to deal with relationships. And oftentimes it seems to me that any feminist reading seems to bring up the idea that any sexualization or any need to put a female in a relationship at all makes it a non-feminist reading. Or, same even vice versa for men. The fact that they always need to be in a relationship, or the fact that they're always chasing down and looking at attractive women, makes them terrible. When in fact, we all do something similar on some level, because, if you want to break it down, at a certain point, mating's something hardwired into our DNA that we need to enact at some point in our lives, or if we don't, we start doing a lot of fucked up shit, i.e. priests fucking sheep back in the old country because they went bonkers. So I need this comic to be decent just for a little peace of mind. I start reading it and there's a little bit set up talking about how this religious organization has taken over a good portion of people and have all these people in internment. There's no level of society. Food is sustenance and it's just popped out into a tray and you slough it up. There's no fashion, yada yada yada. You know, complete dystopian future, whatever. And then this girl, our point of view character, is broken out by one of the suicide girls, and she says, how am I supposed to trust you? How am I even supposed to know if you're one of these suicide girls that are supposed to be legend? I mean, if you just come in with a gun tattoo. Yet, when we see this girl, she comes in like this. Sorry, getting a little lost. But no tattoos on her, which makes the dialogue a little awkward. And then there's this action scene here where the woman's being held like this. Somehow she gets her arm up to crack him in the face despite the fact that she was pinned from here down. So how'd she like sneak her arm through her... What? That just doesn't make sense. And this comic is riddled with these little things where the script, which was scripted by a couple of people including Steve Niles, to the dialogue written by one of the Suicide Girls themselves, to the artist, something fell apart for the graphic narrative, which just, you know, for a comic makes it suck. It's kind of like having a movie with a lot of bad edits where things just keep moving around in the background and people keep changing wardrobe for no good reason. It's pretty much like that. That atop the fact that this is just a rote issue. I mean, this shouldn't be an issue sold by itself because pretty much anyone who picks this up is going to be putting it down. It's just that recruitment into the, you know, society that's the rebel against the new status quo, that's this terrible future that we need to fight against. You know, she'll rise up and be the most valuable member and da-da-da-da-da, whatever. We've seen that movie, we've read that comic, oh my god, whatever. But there's like 8 pages of pinups with tits in the back, so, you know, for $3.99 it wasn't a total loss. And so to save you $3.99, I'll present to you the best page of the entire comic. Is the ad for the website. Yeah, which you can find all over the web. Go there, check it out. There's boobs, which are pretty much everywhere, because everyone loves them. Even women sometimes. But yeah, I'd love to know what you guys think about like the whole feminist reading, where you think sexuality plays in a part with all that and everything, especially in the realm of comics where everything's just kind of like this hyperized sense of, you know, great body figures, but then not so willing to actually talk about the deed itself. You know, except for indie comics where you get some lovely pages. So, yeah, you know, put it out there. Love to hear what you think. Till then, I'll catch you later. Peace, love, and a pint.